It's recording. Okay, now we can start. Okay, before I start talking about gluconeogenesis and all the facts and stuff, what have you guys learned so far? Because the lectures in MOL are connected, and you have learned that glucose has to be utilized in the body, right? Like this is the first thing they teach you in MOL, like actual, biochemistry. That glucose will have to go through different pathways depending on your needs, right? You know this. You agree, all of you, on this? I guess that's a yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, sure. Thank you. So there are several ways that glucose can go. It can be stored or it can be broken down. Now, this is the storing is called glycogenesis, which I think you took. And the breaking down of glucose is glycolysis, which you also took. Now, there are also two other pathways. This is stored glycogen can be broken down by glycogenolysis. And there's another pathway, which is we're talking about now. What is gluconeogenesis? It is when the body makes glucose. Now you'll be asking, like, why would the body make glucose? Now the answer is very simple, straightforward, because the body needs glucose. So what does the body need glucose for? Some tissues, who can tell me tissues that can't survive without glucose, like they only utilize glucose?
Nerves
RBCs.
and RBCs. Yeah.
Yep, solid. So that's very nice. So the brain and RBCs, and this is like very important. Like the brain without it will just shut down, and which is why some, if you see cases of hypoglycemia, which is low blood glucose and uncontrolled, they will pass out because the brain can't hold it. So yes, it's very important when we need glucose for the brain, the RBCs, cornea. There's also the testes, different tissues, but like this is the main one. Good job. Now, when does this happen? Now, obviously, it happens when you have low blood glucose, or we can say fasting state or starvation state. So when we're starving, when we're fasting, it might happen. And it all happens the opposite of glycolysis. So you guys know glycolysis, right? I'll just say gluconeogenesis in very simple terms, and it will stay with you with the whole lecture. And then we're going to discuss more details. So how does it happen? Now, say your blood, now this is your blood, glucose is low. Liver is the good guy. Now this kind of looks like a liver. Okay, say this is a liver and this is the blood. There's low glucose. Now your liver was like, oh, there's low glucose. I think we should start breaking down glycogen. Breaks down glycogen, gives the blood. Glycogen is out after like about 24 hours, 12 to 24 hours. Glycogen will be depleted, out of stores. So now your body will be like, oh, damn, we don't have glycogen. We don't have glucose. We need to make some. So how will the body make some glucose, even though it doesn't have energy from glucose? Glucose is the main source of energy, kind of. So now fatty acids will be broken down and they will release energy. And also another thing, proteins will be broken down and they will yield at the end, amino acids. They will get broken down to amino acids. And then these amino acids, specifically alanine, will be converted to pyruvate. So this is pyruvate. I just write P. Now, pyruvate is the end product of glycolysis. So we can reverse this. Now, I know you have been taught that there are 3 steps that are irreversible, and one of them is the making of pyruvate. But we are going to see how we are going to overcome these 3 irreversible reactions. Anyway, ATP, pyruvate, and now you can go with the steps one by one until you reach glucose. This is simply how it happens. What is going to be in this lecture? We're going to talk about regulators, like how is this regulated, and it's all going to make sense. Everything agrees with each other, nothing contradicts the other. And we're also going to learn how to overcome the 3 major steps. Who can tell me what are the 3 steps that are irreversible? Anyone? Just say one. If you know one, just say it. You remember glycolysis, right? Someone taught you yesterday, I think. Sana taught you yesterday. There's reaction 1, 3, and 10, right? In glycolysis, which is the phosphorylating of glucose. And then the second one, which is very important, the phosphoglucokinase, right? And the last one is the making of pyruvate. These 3, they're irreversible. Irreversible means, so these 2 molecules, they are bound together, okay? And there is energy between them. So when we break them down, they release energy. So notice what I did. 2 molecules with energy got released, either to bind another 2 molecules or as heat. Now these 2 molecules, in order to get them back together, you need to give them back what you took from them. You took from them energy. You need to put energy back in so that these molecules come together. Okay, this is why it's irreversible, which means it doesn't happen. It doesn't reverse the reaction spontaneously. You have to force it using enzyme and, of course, energy, most importantly. And these three reactions, you'll notice in the graph, now we see a graph, that they are three reversible because they yield energy. So we have to put energy back in them so we can make these products again, reverse them. Let's go to the actual lecture and show you how simple everything is now that we discussed the whole idea. Okay. Now this, I told you about this. Exogenous is what you eat. You just ate, for example, say rice and chicken. Rice has glucose, of course. It will get depleted after 4 hours or so. And then your body will start using glycogen until the next meal, right? But say you're not eating anything now, you're just starving yourself. Glycogen will get depleted after 2 days. I said 24 hours, it's 2 days actually, okay? From 8 hours to 2 days. And then your body will start making like gluconeogenesis or using gluconeogenesis to make glucose. After the glycogen is depleted, you're not eating sugar. So, it's cooking for itself. Now, this is some facts. There's nothing really to explain here, but I will go through them very quickly. So these tissues, the mentioned tissues, they need glucose. And you guys said brain RBCs, this is more important. Kidney, there's dense cornea, testes. These tissues, they need glucose. The muscle also needs glucose, but the muscle can sacrifice itself for other tissues. So the muscle can use fat or amino acids if glucose is depleted. But these two, they only depend on glucose. So you can't get glucose from them. And the liver, it's the playmaker here. The liver is actually doing everything. It will supply, as you told you, breaking down of glycogen, which is glycogenolysis, and gluconeogenesis after prolonged starvation. So it makes glucose. This is what we said. And now you guys, I think you should know what is glucagon and insulin by now. These two hormones are very important in maintaining glucose levels in the body. So glucagon, just put this in your mind always. When you're hungry, glucagon is out. So when you're hungry, what happens? You have low blood sugar levels. You don't have glucose. You're not eating glucose, which also agrees with low glucose levels. So anything that will increase blood sugar is promoted by glucagon. Now, if you have a lot of blood sugar, what will happen? Insulin will go out. So if you have, or you just ate, or say you have hyperglycemia, insulin is the one who will inhibit these pathways. So what? Inhibit glucose. So in our case, gluconeogenesis, which is the making of glucose, will the glucagon activate or inhibit? I know it's written, but I want you to understand. Do you understand why it promotes it? Gluconeogenesis. Anyone? Just tell me in the chat or something. Wait, let me read the chat. Making glucose will promote insulin. No, okay. Yes, glucose will increase insulin, but if you have low glucose, will glucagon be stimulated or inhibited? Or will it
Will
go
be
out?
simulated.
Yeah, it will go out, exactly. Because why? We said we need glucose. So glucagon increase glucose, insulin decrease glucose. Very simple. And this is just some facts telling you that glycogen can supply for 10 to 18 hours. In the graph said 2 days. I said 24 hours. This says 10 to 18. It's a whole interval. I'm not sure if you ask about this. Now fasting, glycogen, yes, it will drop after 12 hours dramatically. So after that, your body will start want to compensate. And this is just same, nothing really here. Let's go to the next and more important stuff. Now, gluconeogenesis is an energy consuming or anabolic pathway. And you guys took the difference between anabolic and catabolic. What does anabolic mean? Let me open the chat, because you guys are there.
It's the making of from smaller molecules building bigger molecules.
Yes, that's very correct. So it's building molecules. It's building. And when you build, you need energy. Other than when you break. When you break, energy is released, you take energy, you're happy. When you build, you need to put in some effort, some ATP. That's right. And it generates glucose from non-carbohydrate carbon substrates. And I told you what? Amino acids to pyruvate. So protein, amino acids, and amino acids get converted to pyruvate, and then pyruvate will go along the way. Gluconeogenesis is important to provide glucose during what? Fasting or starvation. It's not immediately, because actually, guys, we got a question about this last year and it tricked a lot of people. Like some people wrote the answer is glycogenolysis, which is what supports the body in prolonged fasting or prolonged starvation. But when he tells you prolonged starvation or fasting, just know he means that glycogen is out. So there's no glycogen now. And we got a question like this. So just be careful of this. You know exactly when it happens, prolonged starvation. And it occurs mainly in the liver, like 90%, as you saw in the liver. Liver is the main playmaker here. Some of it happens in the kidney, very few. And it happens in mitochondria and cytosol. So let me just go back again because this is also, he might get a question about this. We got it last year, so you might get it this year. So you know that everything in the liver, this is the cell and this is the mitochondria. Okay, this is the mitochondria. Let me just put red because mitochondria apparently is red. Everyone puts it like this. So you know everything happens from glucose to pyruvate happens where in the cytosol, but pyruvate gets into the mitochondria. So we said that pyruvate will be converted back to glucose, but through a series of pathways. Now, the first step of gluconeogenesis, and this is very important, happens where? In the mitochondria, because we said pyruvate enters the mitochondria, but then from there, the enzymes responsible for gluconeogenesis will take pyruvate in the mitochondria, convert it, and then it will exit. So all the steps happen, or most of the steps happen in cytosol, except the first step of gluconeogenesis. So if he asks you a question and told you that you start from a substrate here, and he will ask you, they might ask about this, they did for us. They start from a substrate here that is after pyruvate. Is this cytosolic or mitochondrial? And your answer has to be cytosolic because pyruvate conversion happens and it's done. So just pyruvate conversion is the only one that happens in the mitochondria. So you guys, I stress about things that they might ask about because I made the exam and I saw their questions. Some of questions were tricky, but they're easy when you know what you're talking about. So alanine is the measure. These are amino acids. Now, you don't take these in details. You'll take them in MOL 2 more, like gluconeogenic, ketogenic, etc. But alanine is the major gluconeogenic amino acid because alanine plus I think glucuronate will yield pyruvate and something else. You don't have to know this, but just know that alanine is a major gluconeogenic amino acid, and there are like 18 out of 20 amino acids that are glucogenic, which means they yield pyruvate to make glucose. You will see later on that some amino acids they don't actually yield pyruvate, they yield something else to do something else. These are not gluconeogenic, and in this case it's lysine and leucine. They don't yield anything that is glucogenic or that helps in making of glucose, and this is what they're saying here. Now you might ask me, do I have to memorize this? Now between you and me, I don't think so. Just know this, that alanine is major and these two they don't not gluconeogenic. The rest, you just know if it's not leucine lysine, it's glucogenic. Okay, now this is other sources of glucose. See, until now we didn't really talk about gluconeogenesis, just introduction. This is other sources, dietary, and this is the second one is very important. It's very, very important. Guys, fatty acids, you can't yield glucose. They can't. They just can't. Now you might look at the fatty acid and see that its end product is part of the TCA cycle. Now you will think, and I thought the same way, if it's in the TCA cycle, why can't I reverse the TCA cycle to get pyruvate and then from pyruvate get glucose? Well, that's because fatty acids are in pairs. The carbon chains are in 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. And now you will understand why this is the exception. Look, so fatty acids are like this, the 2 carbon, 2 carbon, 2 carbon, 2 carbon, yes. Now, each step in the breaking down of fatty acid, the 2 carbon will become acetyl-CoA, which will be lost as carbon dioxide and ATP in the TCA cycle. So the end product is molecules that we can't even make anything out of, and like carbon dioxide just excreted as waste and H2O, etc. Now another cycle, 2 again. Another cycle, we're left with nothing. So how can this fatty acid become glucose? We're literally left with nothing. See? But for the odds, which is propionyl acid, it's the only one that's 17. Say this is odd, right? Say we cut down from 17 to 3. Now the last one, they will break the last cycle, they break the last 2 carbon molecules to make acetyl-CoA. Acetyl-CoA will go to TCA cycle, get lost. So now the last carbon, we can't make we can't make acetyl-CoA from it. So this one, it can be made into pyruvate and then glucogenic. But I'm not sure if you have to know all of this because we know this like in details in MOL 2, but this is what it's talking about. And I hope this makes it clear. If it's not clear, guys, I will repeat. If anything I said it's not clear or I'm going too fast, too slow, just tell me and I will repeat. Was this clear? Let me check the chat. Yeah, yeah, I will repeat. I will repeat. Okay, so it's telling you it's not possible to convert fatty acids to glucose. Now let me go back to the drawing thing. Okay. So this is the TCA cycle. It's going and it starts with pyruvate. This is P for pyruvate, and then go to acetyl CoA, right? Now, fatty acids, the way they get broken down and yield energy is that they get broken down by cutting of two carbon molecules, two by two by two by two. And the two carbon molecules, they get converted to acetyl CoA and then continue the whole run in TCA and then yield energy. This is how fats get oxidized. You guys don't know this yet, and you don't have to. But I'm just telling you this so I come to the next point. And the next point is you have this is all for the even ones. We said this these two they became acetyl CoA and then they got lost in the process of TCA. You know TCA you learned it today I think. It yields a lot of things like carbon dioxide, right? It yields H2O, it yields NADH, FADH. Now these all things will get lost. We can't use these products back to glucose. We can't. It's just impossible. Except one thing, the odds carbon molecule or the propional acid. So this fatty acid has 17, 17 carbon molecules. And we said each two will make one acetyl CoA. So we make 8 acetyl CoA. We cut, we make 8 acetyl CoA. Now the last one, we can't make an acetyl CoA out of it. So it can possibly go to the glucogenic pathway. That's what they're saying. That's all what they're saying. I hope this makes it clear. That's what they're all saying. So if they ask you, can fatty acids be converted to glucose? The answer is no. Another question might be, what is the only exception of fatty acids that can make glucose? And your answer should be the 17 carbon fatty acid or the propionyl CoA. Now it's not like a major concept in your lecture right now, but I just explained because it's there. Is this clear, guys? Okay, amazing, amazing. People, okay, that's great. That's great. Sweet. I love it. I love it. Okay, great. So we can move on now. Now this is what I was talking about. We said 1, 3, and 10 is irreversible. Why is this? I explained because they have energy between them. When they get broken down, the energy is released. So in order to get it back together, we have to have energy again. We have to put energy again and then get them back together. It's like very basic. I give you, you take. Now, so you give me back, I should take the same exact thing. That's all what's happening. So to reverse this, we have to actually put energy. So it's minus 33 because it released 33. So to put it back, we just put 33. That's it. Is my voice not clear, guys? Okay, well, I'll try to do something. 1 second. Is this better or like now? What about now? Is it too loud? Too okay? This is good. Everyone, this is good. Okay, sweet, sweet, amazing. Okay, so these 3 steps we have to overcome so we can achieve gluconeogenesis. And now we're going to talk about these 3 steps. The rest, you don't have to really, put anything because the same 2 molecules will just shift to something else, and to shift them back, they just shift back. Very simple. Now this is the opposing pathway. They call it the opposing pathway of glycolysis because it's very straightforward. The glycolysis breaks down glucose. This one makes glucose. Now you might freak out. You're like, what is this? I can't understand anything from this. But it's actually simple. See, glycolysis has 3 steps, irreversible, and it just makes them becomes pyruvate at the end. You learned it. I'm not go over it again. Pyruvate, we said it's in the mitochondria now, and it has to be converted to something else so that it leaves the mitochondria, and that is oxaloacetate. And the enzyme responsible for this is pyruvate carboxylase. Now, they might also ask you in the exam, what is the mitochondrial enzyme in mitochondria? In gluconeogenesis? The answer should be the conversion of pyruvate to oxaloacetate or the enzyme pyruvate carboxylase. This reaction happens in the mitochondria. We got a chat. Let's see. Anaplerotic reaction. What do you mean anaplerotic reaction? I don't know what's anaplerotic reaction. Oh, okay. Previous lecture. Anyway, so pyruvate will be converted to oxaloacetate in the mitochondria. Now, oxaloacetate will leave the mitochondria to go with the cytosol. And now there's a very important enzyme that will come, and that is pep carboxykinase, or we'll call it PepCK. This PepCK will take the oxaloacetate, convert it to PEP, or phosphoenolpyruvate, which is just called PEP because it's a long name. Now, this phosphoenolpyruvate, you can see in the graph, like it's reversible. It can just go back to this, until it reaches fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. Now, before we hurry up and go to the next step, we just need to talk about some regulators that simulate this step or inhibit this step. Okay, let's go next. Next, yes, okay. So what is this amine? I put amine. Why? Because this reaction is actually the roadblock of gluconeogenesis. So it's like the blocker. So if we overcome this reaction, we can say amine, that we're now officially doing gluconeogenesis. So this is like the roadblock. You might get a question saying, what's the roadblock of gluconeogenesis? You will say this reaction is written here, which converts PEP to pyruvate, but the opposite. So pyruvate to PEP, which is PepCK. PepCK is very important. It is the roadblock enzyme. You do it, PepCK does its job, you're in gluconeogenesis. Congrats. Okay. Now it's just saying that 3 of these reactions are reversible. We said this, but they are overcome by 4 reactions, and we said why. Because pyruvate in the mitochondria, it needs to be converted to something else, which is oxaloacetate. Oxaloacetate will leave, convert to PepCK. See, so from pyruvate to phosphoenolpyruvate, it's not a direct one reaction that is reversible. It's actually 2 reactions. 1, oxaloacetate, leave mitochondria. 2, PepCK, 2 PEP. And it's written down here. So yes, pyruvate to oxaloacetate, and then oxaloacetate to leave PepCK to PEP. 2 reactions. And now we finished 2 reactions. Now this is just in deeper details. So it's saying here that they leave using a shunt. There is a mallet shunt. I don't think you have to know the shunts, and it's just basically to take an amino acid and then give back something. You know, when you give and take. I'm sorry, just that was my button. Okay, so we said this is the first roadblock. We overcome this. We're in gluconeogenesis. Now the next thing is PepCK. We'll finish this. Yes, carboxylation, decarboxylation, guys. This is important. Carboxylases are important. These 2 steps were done by carboxylation, and you might get a question about this, but not likely. But carboxylation is very important because these 2 enzymes are actually ABC enzymes, and especially when you talk about ABC, it's carboxylase, the pyruvate carboxylase. Why is it an ABC? Because it needs ATP, biotin, carbon dioxide. Sorry again. So ATP, biotin, carbon dioxide. So the biotin is just a cofactor. It sits on the enzyme like this, and say this is the ATP and this is the carbon dioxide. Now the molecule comes in, which is in our case pyruvate. It will just stick the carbon dioxide on it using the ATP with it. That's what it does. Very simple. Also, guys, stay hydrated. I put the water beside me because I forget to drink water from studying too much. Anyway, so this is what it's doing, biotin. Just the cofactor gets carbon dioxide, put it in the molecule using ATP. Very simple. Now, this is a very important concept, guys, which is the acyl-CoA. It's an obligate activator. So this means it must be there. 1 second. Someone is saying, can you repeat the enzyme in the mitochondria? Yes, I can, of course. I love drawing. I don't like just explaining this way. I'll just draw something for you. This is the cytosol or the cell, and this will be the mitochondria. Now let's zoom into the mitochondria. Yeah, we can zoom in, nice. So we have inside pyruvate, P, and you learn that pyruvate will come into the mitochondria because that's what it does, so that it can go to TCA cycle. But this time we can't go to the TCA cycle. It will stay in the mitochondria, waiting for something to happen to it. What will happen to it? Pyruvate carboxylase will take it, convert it to oxaloacetate. We'll write this OA for oxaloacetate. And this is done by pyruvate carboxylase, which is the ABC enzyme. See, this reaction is the only reaction happening in mitochondria. I put it pretty straightforward for you to see pyruvate oxaloacetate using pyruvate carboxylase. Now this oxaloacetate will leave. Let me just will leave, and then will continue its day from here. Just continue. Now it will be converted to PEP. And what enzyme is this? We said the enzyme is PepCK. PepCK. Okay. So the enzymatic, the mitochondrial enzymes is this one. This is the mitochondrial enzyme, and this is mitochondrial substrate product. You might get a question in any form of this. Just know this whole reaction happens in the mitochondria. I hope this answers your question. Okay, we'll continue from here. So acetyl-CoA is the obligate activator. And why is this? 1 second. Okay, amazing. I'll show you why acetyl-CoA is very important, actually. 1 second. Let me show you something really cool about this. So what do you guys know about acetyl-CoA? Now, you know that acetyl-CoA is the product of pyruvate to acetyl-CoA, right? I just write A-CoA. Okay, acetyl-CoA. Now, this happens when we want energy, because this will go to the TCA cycle, right? Okay. But when we're depleted, acetyl-CoA is two carbon. Yes, it's a two carbon atom. That's right. It's very important in doing energy. Okay. But there's something about this that is very nice. So we said we don't have glucose. Our energy will come from fats. So fat will get broken down to acetyl-CoA. Now, what will happen to acetyl-CoA when we're only depending on fat metabolization? It will increase. Do you agree with me? It will increase. I hope you all agree with me. And when it increases, you also learn that the basics of reactions, when a product increases, it will inhibit or like stop this reaction. So I'll put a minus, nice little minus here. The enzyme is pyruvate dehydrogenase, PDH. So it will inhibit PDH. Okay. Feedback inhibition. That's amazing. Feedback inhibition. That's exactly what's happening. It will inhibit PDH. PDH does what? Acetyl-CoA. So acetyl-CoA is like, there's too much of acetyl-CoA. So acetyl-CoA will be like, bro, there's too much of us. Don't convert pyruvate to more acetyl-CoA. There's already a lot of us. So stop. Yes, PDH will listen and be like, stop. But now, sad little pyruvate, it's left alone. Do you guys think it's fair if pyruvate stays there and no reactions happen to it and it just sits there with no job? That's mean, right? We can't let this happen. So what will happen is acetyl-CoA will activate. What will activate? The ABC carboxylase or pyruvate carboxylase. Why? Why is this? I'll show you why. We said it's unfair to just let pyruvate. In medical terms, we can say pyruvate, there will be too much of it. And we need to take an action with it. We can't just let it be there and do nothing, right? We have to do something with it. Let's write pyruvate carboxylase as PC. This pyruvate carboxylase will take pyruvate. Now I will do a different color. We'll take pyruvate and do oxaloacetate. So now we're all happy. Acetyl-CoA is happy. We stopped making more of it. And pyruvate is happy. It's not being left behind. We are making oxaloacetate. So the end result, and it is the zubda from here. What is the zubda from all of this? I just wrote. The end result is acetyl-CoA will activate. There's a big plus sign, pyruvate carboxylase. This is what's happening. That's what it's saying. And it's an obligate activator. It's very important. It's a very important activator. So without it, the enzyme will not be as efficient as with it. That's what it's saying. I hope that makes it clear. What does obligate mean? Obligate means a must. So if I say this is an obligate uh football match enjoyer, this means that this guy should watch football to enjoy. It's just that it's a must. So obligate activated, that means it must be there to activate. It must be activated so that it does its job efficiently. Okay. That's sweet. That's sweet. Okay, that's very nice. I think all of you got this. Inshallah, you all got this. If not, I will do it again. It's fine. Okay, now let's go next. This is still not the most important part, guys. We're still not in the most important part. Okay. So we said this just says what does it mean? High level of acetyl-CoA will inhibit PDH, as we said, to reduce glycolysis because we don't need energy now. We need to make glucose, and it stimulates pyruvate carboxylase, which I also said to start gluconeogenesis. Now, when it's acid oxaloacetate, then Pepsi K, it will start gluconeogenesis. Positive regulation, it stimulates pyruvate carboxylase. Negative regulation, it inhibits PDH. Very simple, very straightforward. Now this is not so easy, but if you focus with me, you will get it. This is very important step. Very, very important. Look at this. I actually drew this, but I will take this so that I can draw in the other application. Yes. Oh, nice. We just did something. Okay, look at this. So in glycolysis, there is fructose 6-phosphate that will be converted to fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. Okay, by the enzyme PFK1 or phosphofructokinase 1. Now there's also another possibility that fructose 6-phosphate will go through. It can go through PFK2, phosphofructokinase 2, which will add a phosphate group to the second carbon. That's why it's called 2, and the other one's called 1. So this one will convert fructose 6-phosphate to fructose 2,6-bisphosphate. Now, why is all this important? Look at this. Look at why all of this is important. Because this, you see this, the fructose 2,6-bisphosphate, it activates this enzyme. And this enzyme, we said, it makes fructose 1,6-bisphosphate, so it means it's a glycolysis enzyme. See? And we said the gluconeogenesis is the opposite of glycolysis. So, do we really need to activate this enzyme? Do we really need this? No, we don't. We don't need this. So, what will happen in gluconeogenesis? In gluconeogenesis, this will be inhibited. Why? And by who? By glucagon, of course. By glucagon, just like GLU for glucagon. This will be inhibited. When this is inhibited, there is no fructose 6-phosphate. There is no activation. There is no fructose 1,6-bisphosphate, which means now we're kind of stopping the reaction to happen to reverse it, right? And now what reverses this reaction is also another thing. It's the bisphosphatase. So we have a kinase to put phosphate, and we have the phosphatase to remove the phosphate, which is also activated by glucagon. Check this. Oh, sorry. Check this out. There is PFK, fructose 1,6-bisphosphate, phosphatase, and fructose 2,6-bisphosphate, phosphatase. So it wants to break down this even more and break down this. And when it's break down this, what will happen? Reverse the reaction. You broke it down. And when you break down this, the other one, this one, what will happen? You will again stop the activation. So see, all of this happens because of glucagon. The opposite happens because of insulin, which you learned in glycolysis. Now this happens because of glucagon. Very straightforward. Now, what are the activators of the things that glucagon activates? What are the activators of, let's say, gluconeogenesis? So ATP. ATP could be an activator, right? Because we have a lot of energy, we can make glucose now. We said acetyl-CoA. Acetyl-CoA, we already said this. And let's look at more of the lecture now. Did you guys get the idea of PFK2 and PFK1? Because it's very important. It's actually very, very important. And now when we look at the, facts and stuff, you will just find a lot of words, and it might not make sense at first. Now it will definitely make sense. This is another thing that I drew today. So PFK2 will increase this, which will activate PFK1. Now, fructose bisphosphatase 2 will stop or like decrease this enzyme. It's bisphosphate 2. It's a long name, okay? We just said it. And this one will get activated when this is less, because this inhibits this. So when this is less, this is more. When this is more, what is this? The 1,6 bisphosphatase is more now. Reverse the reaction. And this is what happens. Now, if you didn't get it yet, just look at the next slides. It's fine. Could you repeat? Yes, I will repeat. Of course, I will just explain it again now and tell me if you didn't get it. Okay. So phosphofructokinase is replaced by what? Fructose 1,6 bisphosphatase. So the kinase will convert fructose to fructose 1,6 bisphosphate. The phosphatase will convert 1,6 bisphosphate to 6 bisphosphate, which is originally what we said, which is this one. So it will convert this to this. Cool. Now all of this I explained is just a regulation on what happens when it's more or less. Now it's the key point of gluconeogenesis, because we said it's the what reaction in glycolysis. Which reaction is it? It's the key reaction, or the reaction. If it happens, if we regulate it, we'll get the whole reaction, right? It's a control reaction. Could you committed step? Yeah, committed step, control reaction, key reaction. Yes, that's all correct. So fructose 1,6 bisphosphatase, we said it's inhibited by fructose 2,6 bisphosphate. I will go back to this. See this? It inhibits fructose 1,6 with white bisphosphate. Okay, right? This inhibits it. But luckily, we have glucagon that will inhibit this enzyme to decrease this to increase this. Okay. I will go over everything now and I will sum it up again at the end. Don't worry, just stay with me through the whole thing. And why AMP? We said if ATP is activating, then what is the opposite of ATP? It's AMP, or adenosine monophosphate. This is adenosine triphosphate. This is just opposite. If you have a lot of AMP, this means you have less energy, so we can't make glucose while less energy. Like, it doesn't make sense. But if we have too much ATP, then we can make the reaction and we can make glucose. So this is what, like, logic, right? If we have less energy, then we can't make glucose. So this is what's happening. Now, we'll tell you about fructose 2,6 bisphosphate and why is it important. And which one is this? Okay, I think there's a mess here. Let's just remove everything. Which one is this? It is this enzyme. It's a key regulator. If we regulate it, we regulate the whole step. Let's put just the other enzyme, which is the fructose 2,6 bisphosphate and the fructose 1,6 bisphosphate. These are gluconeogenic enzymes. So if they act, they do gluconeogenesis. And they are inhibited by this and activated by the decrease of this. So glucagon will inhibit this to decrease this, to stimulate these two, so that they destroy this and destroy this to make what? This. Was that clear? I think it's pretty straightforward. Like, it's not actually straightforward, like a lot of this and that, but you get the idea. I will do it again, but I will try. Oh, wait, this is okay. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So fructose 2,6 bisphosphate inhibits fructose 1,6 bisphosphatase and fructose 2,6 bisphosphatase, because these two enzymes will destroy what is trying to help. This is trying to activate this, and these two destroy this. So these two will, so this one, sorry, will inhibit these two, the fructose 1,6 bisphosphate, fructose 2,6 bisphosphate. So logically, if we want to stop the inhibition, we increase the activation. So we stop this one. So that stops making fructose 2,6 bisphosphate. When it stops, these two will increase. And when these two increase, they will start reversing the reactions back to fructose 6 phosphate, and they can continue gluconeogenesis from there. This is what's happening in very simple terms. Let's go back to the lecture. And let's read every point one by one. Fructose is produced by, we said this. and it controls gluconeogenesis and glycolysis. We said this. How? By activating PFK1 or by inhibiting this enzyme, fructose 1,6 bisphosphatase. Guys, if anything you don't find clear, tell me, I'll repeat, okay? But let me just finish those and I will repeat. So it's activated by what? You know what? I'll remove this slide. I want you to tell me. This one. Do you think it will be activated by glucagon or by insulin? Activated. And why? I need a full answer. I need a full answer. Insulin, why? Why is it insulin? I need a very nice answer. Let's see. Who can tell me why? I'll wait. Maybe you guys are typing the messages. If you can open the mic and explain to me why is it activated by the insulin, that would be appreciated. But if you don't want to open the mic, it's fine. If you just want to write it down, I can read it. I'm opening the chat. Can you tell me why that insulin, this is the question again, activates this enzyme? Why? Insulin is released when there is a lot of glucose, so we need to break it down by stimulating glycolysis. She deserves a hand. Honestly and genuinely, she actually deserves a hand. That's a very nice answer. That is what I was waiting for, exactly. So insulin is released when there's a lot of glucose. When there's a lot of glucose, we need to break it down. And we said that this substrate activates PFK1. PFK1 does what? Converts fructose 6-phosphate to fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. And what happens next? Continue glycolysis. So insulin will activate this. Glucagon is quite the opposite. It will inhibit this. Why does it inhibit it? So it doesn't break down glucose. Instead, we want to make glucose. That's a very nice answer. And there's another answer. Activated by insulin because when there is high glucose, PFK2 is activated to produce a chemical called fructose 2,6-bisphosphate. That's right. To activate PFK1 and then produce fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. He also deserves a hand. Very nice. Amazing. Wallahi, amazing, guys. MashaAllah. Okay. So it's activated by insulin, inhibited by glucagon. Now, fructose 2,6-bisphosphate activates PFK1, and we said this. Fructose 2,6-bisphosphate inhibits the phosphatase, which breaks down fructose 1,6-bisphosphate, which is this one, this guy. See this guy over here? It's inhibited by this substrate because this breaks down fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. Guys, I'm spending a lot of time on this concept because this one, you need to understand it. And it will help you in a lot of pathways. So this means that fructose 2,6-bisphosphate is the most important regulator of glycolysis, gluconeogenesis, because it has opposite effects. If we stop it, it will have less effect and then more effective gluconeogenesis. If we activate it, we have more glycolysis, less gluconeogenesis, and it's like the player of this. So it's the common step in glycolysis, that's right. And we can look at the chart here. So fructose 6-phosphate, it can go to gluconeogenesis because it is part of the glycolysis before it's the committed step. This one will activate or will, yes, activate PFK1, inhibit fructose bisphosphatase 1. We said this. Again, we said this. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. We said everything here. This is another chart. See, another chart. See how many slides until now? We have like 6 slides only talking about this concept. That's why I explained it very carefully. So this chart might seem confusing, but we can read it carefully. So let's start from the middle. Fructose 6-phosphate to fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. This is with glycolysis. So insulin will want this to happen. So if we now look at insulin, insulin activates what? Fructose 2,6-bisphosphate, which will activate fructose phosphofructokinase 1 to activate this reaction. Very simple. And this is just extra. It tells you that CAMP leads to dephosphorylation. You will learn this later, but like less CAMP will also help insulin to dephosphorylate stuff. More CAMP will help glucagon to phosphorylate stuff. And when things are phosphorylated, they work in favor of glucagon. When things are dephosphorylated, they will work in favor of insulin. And we're talking about enzymes, not molecules. Be careful, enzymes. Okay, so glucagon. Now let's look at glucagon. So glucagon will activate fructose 2,6 bisphosphatase, which is this guy. Look at this, which is this guy. See this guy? It will activate it, which will break down fructose 2,6 bisphosphate. Let's go back to this. When it's broken down, there is less fructose 2,6 bisphosphate now. When there is less fructose 2,6 bisphosphate, there is less stimulation of phosphofructokinase 1, sorry. When there's less stimulation now, we can play it right and do what? Activate fructose 1,6 bisphosphatase. Because we said again, see again, this one is inhibited by this. And if this is activated and inhibits this one is no longer there to inhibit this enzyme. This enzyme is the enzyme that reverses this reaction, which is fructose 1,6 bisphosphatase. When it reverses this reaction, we achieved what we want, gluconeogenesis. I hope this is clear. Does anyone find a problem with this? I know I've spent a lot of time on this, but like I have to. Is that clear? The rest is easy, guys. Trust me. Was that clear? Yes, amazing. I had problem on the phosphatase part. On the phosphatases part. Yes, okay. I'll do something nice. So we have the phosphatase, which is the what is it called again? The names. I hate the names. Okay, the fructose 1,6 bisphosphatase. Fructose 1,6 bisphosphatase. This reaction will reverse from F16 to F6, which is this one. Sorry, which is this one, this reaction. So it's telling you here that we need to activate this enzyme to reverse the reaction, because gluconeogenesis is about reversing. So what's happening here? Glucagon will inhibit who? Fructose 2,6 bisphosphate, because this one inhibits this one. Sorry, inhibit. So if we stop this, we stop inhibition. Okay, how do we stop this? We activate an enzyme called fructose 2,6 bisphosphate. Bisphosphatase. Okay, this will break down this, which is fructose 2,6 bisphosphate, which will decrease the inhibition on fructose 1,6 bisphosphatase, which will increase the reaction, which is from this to this, and then congratulations, gluconeogenesis achieved. Okay, of course, man, of course. So let's move next. Same thing, exactly what I said. Nothing more, nothing less. And this is also the same thing. See how many slides, but this one is talking about ATP and AMP. We said AMP is the opposite of ATP. So just to sum everything up really quick, if we have ATP, we want gluconeogenesis. I'll just write gluconeo. If we have AMP, we need to make energy, so we need glycolysis. So now, any enzyme that wants gluconeogenesis to happen will be activated by ATP. Any enzyme that wants glycolysis to happen will be activated by AMP and inhibited by the opposite. Very simple, straightforward concept. Now we can apply this to the enzymes. Which enzyme wants gluconeogenesis to happen will be activated by ATP, because we have a lot of ATP, we can build stuff now. Very simple concept. And this is telling you the activation. We said this activates this. And we said this activates this, right? We said that, we explained why this happens. Okay, this is very straightforward. Now the last reaction and final reaction, it is the glucose 6-phosphate to glucose, because we understand from glycolysis that in order to trap glucose in the liver, we need to phosphorylate it. So to untrap it, kind of thing, we need to what? Dephosphorylate it. So exactly what's happening. We have the glucose 6-phosphatase again. What does it do? Breaks off the phosphate molecule. Get the hell out of here, man. And it exits the liver. Go back to the blood, where we need it to be. Finally, man, we're now increasing the blood levels of glucose. Yes. So dephosphorylation will allow the release of free glucose. And here's something important. It's telling you that it's absent in skeletal muscle. which is why, guys, the muscle cannot contribute to blood glucose. And we got this question. We got the question, which organ contributes to blood glucose? Now, just memorize, it's just liver and the kidney, because these are the only two that have this enzyme, glucose 6 phosphatase. Okay, to tell the glucose, give me your phosphate, man, get that out of here. These are the only two that have this enzyme. So there's a question: what is the whole point of this step to convert phosphofructokinase to fructose 1,6 bisphosphate? Phosphofructokinase. Look, look. I think you missed something here. Okay, so look. This reaction normally happens. The reaction above normally happens in glycolysis. This to this, so we can continue to pyruvate. But if we want to oppose this reaction, we need to break off the phosphate at the first one. So when we achieve fructose 6 phosphate, we can then use isomerase to convert this to glucose 6 phosphate, and then from there we can just dephosphorylate glucose and throw it out. Does that answer the question? Is that what you meant when you asked your question?
Yeah, kind of. I just wanted to know, like, how do we know that we're done with that step? Like, what's the final product?
Oh yeah, the final product is fructose 6 phosphate.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Fructose 6 phosphate then will become glucose 6 phosphate, and then glucose 6 phosphate using the glucose 6 phosphatase that is only found in the liver and the kidney, guys. Don't make a mistake on this. It will detach the phosphate molecule and then throw it out. Okay, and source of ATPs, I said this at the beginning. Source of ATP is metabolizing of fats or beta oxidation, because we oxidize fatty acids to breaking down and stuff. And hepatic gluconeogenesis is dependent on the energy from fatty acids. The substrate is from amino acids. But there's also something you need to understand, that the liver will not use this glucose that it's making, because it's making it for the brain and RBC, so it will not use it. Everything is pretty straightforward. We said this. This is just telling you that this reaction needs ATP. If you look down here, now you will tell me the net ATP is 0. Why can't we just make it without energy? Well, this is because at the beginning, if you notice, we're using a lot of energy to begin this reaction. Once we begin it, if we get any energy at the top, it's just extra and cancels out. Because if we use 6 energy and then get 6, then we're not really doing anything. What we're doing here is glucose. So the main purpose of this reaction is to make glucose. Okay, this is an overview telling you about the 3 steps. And I think we explained everything here. Yes, there's nothing we didn't explain here. Can skip this one. And this is just telling you, comparing glycolysis to gluconeogenesis. Glycolysis will end up with 2 ATP. This will consume 6 ATP, but also makes 6 ATP, cancels out. And how many phosphate bonds does glycolysis yield? It yields 2 phosphate bonds. But how many does gluconeogenesis eat? It eats 6 phosphate bonds. Now, I'm not sure why they even put this, but like, just it's nothing important about this. This is a summary of what we explained, and if now I can expect that all of you understand what's going on when they look at this. You can understand, like, why does AMP inhibit the phosphatase, and why does fructose 6 bisphosphate inhibit this, and why does AMP simulate this one, right? You all now should be able to understand why. Okay, I think this is okay. The Cori cycle. Cori cycle, I am not sure why they put it here, but I will explain it anyway. So it's just telling you that the muscle, when you work at the gym, you're using glucose to produce what's the end product? Lactic acid, right? Lactic acid or pyruvate. But in our case, say lactic acid. Now, lactic acid will be shunted to the blood, from the blood to the liver, and then the liver, what will it do with the lactic acid? It will convert it to pyruvate. Pyruvate to glucose, gets the glucose back to the muscle. Very easy. It's like the muscle is working, doing, wasting stuff, and then this waste is given to the liver will fix it, give it back to the muscle will continue. Very easy, very straightforward. The alien cycle, I'm not sure why they put it here. We took this in MOL 2. Why is it here? I don't know, but I will explain it anyway. So it's just saying that we have urea in the muscle, which is a waste product. Sorry, not urea, ammonia. Sorry, ammonia in the muscle, which is a waste product of amino acids. So this waste product has to be dealt with. And the way we deal with it is that we put it with another amino acid. Why? Because ammonia is toxic. So we can't put it in the blood. So we have to put it, kind of in a bag, seal it, cover it, and then throw it in the blood so it doesn't, toxify the blood. So this ammonia will be given to pyruvate. Pyruvate will take it, and it will be called alanine now. So ammonia plus pyruvate, alanine. Alanine goes to the liver. The liver will break it down again, take the urea out, give the pyruvate back, make it glucose, throw it to the muscle. The muscle will use it again, and the cycle goes on and on. And there's nothing really here to understand. Just urea, alanine, ammonia, alanine, pyruvate, alanine. Then alanine goes broken down. Ammonia will become urea, exceeded in urine. Pyruvate, glucose, back to the muscle. See, the cycle just keeps clinical correlation. So they didn't explain much here, but this slide is just saying that metformin is a medication for type 2 diabetes. Why? It inhibits gluconeogenesis. So we said gluconeogenesis makes glucose, and type 2 diabetes people, inshallah we don't get, and if someone has, inshallah he's doing well and good health. But then inhibits gluconeogenesis because gluconeogenesis makes glucose, and type 2 diabetes people, they have excess glucose already, and they try to not make a lot of glucose or eat a lot of glucose. So it will make sense that they will take medication that will inhibit the synthesis of glucose, and that's all what it's talking about. And the good news is, guys, we're done. There is no bad news. That's it. But if you have any question, ask me, guys. I can stay with you till whatever you want until you all. Okay, so there's a question. Do you have any idea how will the SAQ be? Yes, SAQ is our SAQ, at least. It was very, 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 very easy, guys. It was one sentence, and then an answer would be like one word or something. I remember they got an SAQ telling us to list, I think, the amino acids that are like non-essential or something. It was easy. It's just like MCQ on steroids, but it's really not hard. It's recall, one word recall. MCQs without the CQs, without the multiple choices. Thank you. Jazakallah khair. It's my pleasure. I'm inshallah always be there. If you have any questions, guys, if you want to reach me out anytime, I'm available. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, all of you. If you have any questions, guys, please don't hesitate. You can either now ask or like reach me out. If you see me, want to ask me, want to just say hi,